Welcome to the Life Jacket Podcast, where we talk about topics to help you get through the waves of life. I'm Bless, I have my co-host here, AJ. But before we get started on our topic, we're going to start off with a win of the week. So, AJ, what's your win of the week?
I got my taxes back and I didn't know anything.
Oh, yes, sir.
Come on, y'all better stand up, applause me.
Yeah.
Y'all got. I'm telling you, a lot of people owed this year.
Yeah.
A lot of people owed taxes. I was like, yes, and I got some bread back. So
Oh, yeah.
that's a win. I'll take that win and keep it pushing.
Any day of the week.
Any
Boy.
any day. How about you?
That's facts.
What's your win?
So my win of the week, I got a seat into a military school. That usually takes 2, maybe 3 years to actually get the seat because it's hard. It's based upon your job and the slots and so, like that. So luckily, I didn't have to wait that long. I didn't have to wait long at all to get accepted and get a seat into that school. So that's definitely a win of the week. That's like a win for the next 2-3 years because it take people a minute to get into that school. So definitely happy about that.
And I always, and for those that listening, we always start with the win of the week because we have to celebrate each other. I think it's really important even for yourself to give yourself a win for the day, a win for the week, because celebrate yourself. Where however far you've come, wherever you're going, make sure you take time to celebrate yourself. So we do this every episode. So
Absolutely, yeah, because life be life, man. And so if you don't sit back and be like, wow, this something good did happen.
something good.
You can get into a state of depression or whatever. Like goodness, like take the small wins, take the big wins, whatever. But you definitely need these wins a week. And I hope you listeners are doing exactly that. Like every day, every week, whatever. Find a win. Hunt the good stuff. Literally, that's going to help you get through the waves of life. And that's what we preach about. That's what we talk about. So let's get into our topic, though.
Topic for today is in failure and how to handle it. I will say start off for failure. You are going to fail. You will lose. Just accept it. Failure is just a part of the process to become successful. And you can handle failure 2 ways. You can fall down and quit, or you can get up and overcome. And when you're going through your journey, make sure you write in and when you're planning it, I'm going to fail a couple times because it is going to happen. And it's really just about taking your failures and learning from them and keep going. And then you might fail again, but just keep learning from your failures so you can keep growing as a person each and every day.
Absolutely. It's important to fail. If your life is easy, you don't know how to work hard for anything. You don't appreciate anything. If there's never been a time where something was so easy that the next person appreciated it. And if you look at all the successful people in this world, I promise you, they've at least failed one time. At minimum. One time, right?
Absolutely.
Like rich people, they go bankrupt. People fail tests. It's going to happen. Rappers or whatever, their albums, sometimes they fail. They don't stop. They keep going. Like you said, like you have to be aware that you are going to fail if you're trying to better yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I even look at it from, there is a statistic, Michael Jordan, he took this last 24 seconds, the last shot of the game, he only hit on 33% of them. So he failed to win the game 67% of the time.
Yeah.
And he's considered the greatest NBA player of all time. So, you're just gonna fail, and that's just what it is. It's a part of it.
Exactly. And so, since it is a part of it, I failed, you failed. What is your failure? What's something that you have failed at?
High school, taking the SAT. I took the SAT several times, probably 3-4 times, and I was doing horrible on the SAT. Granted, the first 1 or 2 times, like I would just get frustrated. I'm rushing through the test. It is what it is. Not really taking it seriously. I'm in high school.
Yeah.
And then until my guidance counselor sat down and she was like, you really, you need to improve your scores to really get into the colleges you want to go to. Because back then they took the SAT really, really serious.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for me failing at the SAT, I wouldn't, the 3rd time and the 4th time I did really good, I wouldn't have taken it seriously. So just going through that process, failing, reflecting, failing again, reflecting, and then I did good, but not good enough. So technically I failed, and then finally I got a good enough score for the college that I wanted to apply for. So, you know, part of failing is, you know, just reflection too, and realizing that, okay, like this is something that, you know, I have to really go through in order to get where I need to go.
Yeah. And you appreciate it more.
Yeah, absolutely. And then how about you?
So
What's
same thing, a test, the real estate exam. So I was hearing that, you know, you fail this test multiple times. And so I expected it. I was like, oh, I'll probably fail here and there. And so the first time I took it, I didn't take 3-4 times like the SATs, but it also is a completely different test. I took it twice. The first time I failed, and it was kind of like a failure to kind of learn how to answer the questions or what I should do better. And then the second time I ended up passing it. But the failure wasn't like, oh, I'm going to give up. The failure was like, hey, I'm going to keep going. And definitely when I passed, I was like, oh my God, thank goodness. And now being a real estate agent, I'm taking that serious, and I appreciate it way more than if someone was like, hey, here, now you have your real estate license. So, you know, that was my failure.
And I think what also is important is like to dive in, like you learn a lot from your failures. Like, for example, and this is the one time I'm probably ever going to talk about relationships on this podcast. There's plenty of other podcasts for that. How many times like I failed like dating women in relationships? I failed. Like it just did not work out for various reasons. You know, some my fault, some their fault. But like for me, you know, eventually, you know, when I find, you know, the right woman, I'll marry one day.
Yeah.
All those failures and lessons I've failed at from previous women, I'll be able to reflect and learn and be ready for when that time comes. So even when I look at when you get fired from your job, I never got fired from my job. But if you get fired from your job, they tell you why you got fired.
Yeah.
And so when you go into your next job, you should be like, okay, I failed at that. Whatever they wanted me to do, I failed. I didn't do it. So when I go into this next job, I'm going to make sure I don't fail at that. And so, you know, you really just have to reflect, whether it's relationships, careers, just when you do fail at something, how do you rebound from it?
Oh, yeah.
Do you just sit there and be like, oh my God, it's the end of the world and boo-hoo? Or do you get up and be like, okay, like I'm going to learn from this and move forward and keep going?
Yeah. Because failing is definitely important for personal growth.
Super.
So, because it helps you learn. It helps you learn about your mistakes. It helps you learn about who you are, whether or not you're going to come back and be better. And then you have to also embrace it. Like if you sit down and like, hey, I failed, now I'm going to just give up, then that's all you're going to do is that's all you're going to be is a failure. But if you continue pushing forward, then you learn and you reevaluate and you make the changes that are different. And then I think failing is a sign that you're out of your comfort zone. Because if you know that you're going to not fail at something, and that's all you're doing throughout your whole life, then you're just coasting.
Oh yeah.
And that's it. We talked about coasting through the waves of life and how we don't want to just do that. We want to actually go through those waves. And so there's people out there that have never failed at all. And it's like, are you okay with that? Are you Are you that okay with being complacent? Are you okay with staying in that comfort zone? And there's some people that are, but in my opinion only, you need to fail. You need to fail because there's so many benefits from failing. It makes you become a better person. You learn about who you are. You realize that your habits might be the wrong way or that you didn't prepare yourself for whatever task it may be. And so as we do this show and as we have the life jacket, we want for all our listeners to become better at the end of this.
Yeah.
And so take that risk, fail. It's okay. We all do it. Like,
yeah. Steve Harvey, I remember he said something. He said, you have to get it wrong to get it right. I think for even when you're starting your own business, think about Steve Jobs when he made Apple. How many times did he fail at making the iPhone until he finally did it? And now look at it, it's $1 trillion company.
Yeah.
You do have to get it wrong to get it right in various aspects. Even I remember Kobe Bryant had a quote saying, you have to go to the storm, but the storm does end. And we talk about this, like when it rains, it pours. It really pours, but the storm does end eventually. You just have to be able to stay in the storm long enough, like the life jacket, for example, keep your head above water
Yeah.
until you get to that point, you get that breakthrough moment. And so it's just knowing that failing is a part of it, and especially for people that are on social media, um, people aren't going to show you their failures. So
Oh
when
yeah,
you watch
absolutely.
somebody's content or you watch what they're doing, you think everything's just going great and going happy and everything's great, but you don't know what they went through that day or that last week or what it took for their business to get to where they're at. Nobody's posting their failures. So even when you're on your journey and you get into the habit of comparing yourself to others, which you should not do, by the way, because when you compare yourself to other people, that's almost like death. You're stealing your joy.
Self-sabotaging
You're
yourself.
stealing your joy when you compare yourself to somebody else, whether they're in your journey or they're not. And if you do start comparing yourself to other people, I really want you to catch yourself immediately and stop doing that. And just make sure that, remember that nobody posts their failures. They're only going to post a success. And so just remember when you're on your journey and you keep going that when you're failing, other people have failed too. They're just not going to show it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, how do you overcome your failures?
I would say to overcome your failures is to just sit down and reflect what went wrong. I think a lot of people don't, they're like, oh my God, I failed, start freaking out. But like really sit down. Like
Yeah.
when your boss says you failed at this project, was it your boss's fault or was it really you? Like really sit down and reflect like, could you have done better in that area? And more than likely it's yes. And just reflect and really got to take the time out to be like, okay, like I messed up in this situation.
Yeah.
I could have done this better and improve on it. And more than likely when you improve, you're gonna grow as a person. This is whether you're in your job, whether you're in sports, any situation you're in at life. Just remember when you do fail to pick yourself back up. You can't let your failures define you as a person. You really just have to keep picking yourself back up and keep going. Because I mean, I could be here all day and tell you how many times I failed, but there's just not enough time. But just making sure that
Yeah.
like every time I failed, not every time, but as I got older, when I looked at my failures, instead of just boo-hooing and complaining and saying, woe is me, I said, okay, how can I improve on this? And I picked myself back up and I've grown from that. So
Yeah.
that's, I think, a way to improve from failure and how to reflect from failure and how you can grow from it. How about
Yeah.
you?
And just a caveat, when you said you definitely have to dive deep into yourself, be vulnerable with yourself. Why did I fail? Was I unmotivated? Was I unprepared? Figure out the reason why the failure happened. And not every, and you might not even have a reason for every time. Maybe God just didn't want that happen for you. Right. And then if you do have a reason, what do you learn from it? Like, are you going to change whatever thing that you did wrong to right so that way you don't fail the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time? Like, it's all about changing it. And then how can you approach that situation better? There's many different methods, like study methods. Hey, maybe you like to listen to, for me, I like to listen to Beethoven when I end up studying. Or maybe I should do the 25-10 method. Or there's so many different things that you can learn about yourself that work for you, that can help you to not fail over and over and over again. But this is the point. You want to fail so that way you can learn this, so that way it can eventually get easier. And then just keep doing it over and over and over again. And then also, though, not every failure is a failure,
It's not.
right? So there's been situations, at least for me, that I failed. And at the time, I was like, darn, I failed. But then later on, I was like, I'm glad that I failed because I wouldn't have done this the other way, or I wouldn't have learned this about myself. And so just once again, hunting the good stuff and finding the good stuff in essentially every situation. But yeah, it's like you just have to really understand yourself and why those things happen.
And just a caveat off that, if you're somebody who doesn't have an accountability group or accountability partner, get yourself one after this episode. Get somebody who's going to hold you accountable throughout your journey, especially when you fail at something, or get you a support group. So when you do fail, you have a group of people who is interested in you and wants to see you succeed, hold you accountable and support you to get you through that. Especially because nobody wants to go do something alone. Like it's just not ideal.
Yeah, no.
You want to get yourself a group of accountability group, a support group, partner, whoever, girlfriends, friends, whoever that is, to make sure that you're not only holding yourself accountable, but when you do fail, you have a group to lean back on. Text the group, hey, listen, I failed this today. Just need some words of encouragement, because that will take you a long way. It kind of goes back to our last episode about understanding your why, like having support. Like when you fall back on your why, you have a group of people, or you have people to fall back on. It goes the same with your failures. Like when you do fail at something, have that support group to kind of help you keep going, when times get really rough.
Yeah. And even the vulnerability stage of like,
yeah, definitely.
You telling people, or at least your close friends, hey, I failed. That's being vulnerable. Like a lot of, like you said, people don't post that stuff.
No,
they keep it quiet. They only want to post their success, and the failures, you never know. That can maybe inspire somebody else to be like, hey, I'm failing too.
Yeah.
and so that'll help. Like you said, like that failure might not be a failure because you've inspired somebody else to keep pushing forward, or to keep doing whatever they're doing. And so like that's what we want to do in the same aspect. And so like that quote from Zig Ziglar, like failure is an event. It is not who you are. And so that's what you have to remember. Like you're not a failure. You've just failed.
Yeah.
And every winner essentially is a loser who didn't stop trying. Like
yeah, literally.
It's as simple as that. And so, like I said, successful people, they failed. Like every business fails within the first 2 years. Like you're going to be in debt. You're going to be, in the black. And it's just a matter of finding your why, keep going, keep pushing forward, and getting out of those waves essentially.
Yeah, real important. And I think it's also even the human nature. Like it sucks to fail. I get it. It really does suck. It's not a good feeling. It stings. It sucks. You have your head down. It doesn't feel good. If you have a business and it fails, everybody's going to hear about it, and now you're worried about what people are saying. But you cannot let it define you. You just have to pick yourself up and keep going. Just don't let any failure you have in life define you. Just evaluate, reflect, and just keep going.
Absolutely. And you got any takeaways?
I would say my biggest takeaway from this episode is I mentioned it earlier, but whatever journey you're on in life, entrepreneur, trying to get into a space where you're trying to learn something new, like a new career, you're getting ready to learn how to ride a bike, make sure you put in there whatever your project plan, a business proposal, put in there like I'm going to fail. So that way you're already prepared for when it happens, because it's just going to happen to you. You're going to fail a little bit. And just remember that it's okay to fail. Pick yourself up, reflect, and just keep going, and know that, you're great, you're awesome, or whatever you're trying to do is going to work out. Just remember that failure is just a part of it, and it's okay when it does happen. How about you? Any big takeaways?
Absolutely. So remember, if you want to be successful, you will fail. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Nah.
The world is not giving. You will fail, but it's matter what you do with the failure. If you decide to sit back and not capitalize on your failure, then you are going to remain in that category as a failure. And so, as AJ was saying, embrace what your failure is, learn from it, tie your bootstraps up, and keep going. Failure is inevitable, but you, and understanding your why, and knowing and having the right group of people, and being vulnerable about your failure, is what's going to get you to that next level of success.
All right, so that's pretty much what we have. Make sure you guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to just give us a like, leave us a review, a comment. If you know this episode can help somebody out, make sure you share it. Make sure to give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We really appreciate all the support. It really helps us get to our community that we want to reach, and really just helps, our brand out. So we really appreciate you guys. Until next time, take
Next
care.
time. Yeah.